and welcome to... Oh, look at that. I've been knitting. Welcome to episode 42 of the Sockmatician podcast. My name is Nathan Taylor, otherwise known as Sockmatician here on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter, and here on YouTube. Starts me to go on, really. It's already descended into chaos. This is episode 42, My Age, also one of the most commonly occurring numbers in literature. Of course, it's Douglas Adams in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. 42 is the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. But it also crops up very, very frequently in other literature as well. Lewis Carroll, of course, with The Hunting of the Snark, his epic nonsense poem. In Fit the First, which is the first chapter, called The Landing, there's a couple of verses which go... There was one who was famed for the number of things he forgot when he entered the ship, his umbrella, his watch, all his jewels and rings, and the clothes he had brought for the trip. He had 42 boxes, all carefully packed, with his name painted clearly on each, but since he omitted to mention the fact, they were all left behind on the beach. They are just one of the other mentions in literature of the number 42. Number 42 is also a sphenic number. A sphenic number. A sphenic number is the product of three distinct primes. So a prime number is a number that can only be divided by one in itself. The lowest, of course, being 2. 2 being the only even prime number. And so if you were to multiply three prime numbers together, three separate distinct prime numbers together, for example the three smallest ones, 2, 3 and 5, you would get 30, because 2 times 3 is 6 times 5 is 30. 42 is the next sphenic number in the sequence and is the product of 2, 3 and 7. Can you guess what the next one's going to be? Answers on a postcard. No, don't write in. I'm sure you all know. It's 66. Why? Because it's the product of the next three. You know how it goes. So 42, episode 42, here it is. It's called Edinburgh Crazy. And that's not just because I am completely Edinburgh crazy, but it seems the whole of the knitting community is Edinburgh crazy. I have just come back a few days ago from Edinburgh. I'm a little bit late recording this podcast because you might be able to hear in my voice I don't sound my usual self. I developed a really, really nasty case of laryngitis. I felt it coming on the train on the way up to Edinburgh, and then I had my 3 teaching classes up there, so three lots of 3 hours of talking and a whole lot of socialising as well, and my voice just wasn't up to the task. It just packed up completely. So it's coming back. I don't know how it's going to do throughout the course of this episode, but I hope you'll forgive me any croaks and whistles and raspiness. Buckle up. I think we're in for a long one. With that in mind, I'm going to strip out a couple of the usual sequences in my podcast episodes because there's so much to talk about. Edinburgh was amazing. Let's just plough straight on, shall we? Let's get on into the roundup, which entirely consists of the Edinburgh Yarn Festival 2017. Now, for those of you who don't know, Edinburgh is in Scotland, which is the country to the north of England. And the Edinburgh Yarn Festival is has its 4th show. I think it's its 5th year, but it missed a year, so this is the 4th time it's happened. And I went up there last year. I'd been invited to go up to be part of the Podcasters Lounge by Louise Scully from Knit British, the audio podcast available on iTunes. And I'm very glad she did. I had a wonderful time last year. I talked about it on here quite a lot. While I was there, I got talking to Jo and Mika, who are the 2 ladies who are brilliant at organising the festival, and they were already looking ahead to 2017, and they asked me if I would be willing to teach some classes. Like, yes, totally. So cut to Edinburgh Yarn Festival 2017, and I was on the roster for classes, and I taught 3 classes while I was up there, but I'm skipping ahead. I went up last Wednesday. Today, by the way, is Thursday the 16th of February. I went up last Wednesday to Edinburgh, and I got on the train, and I packed all my samples, everything I needed for the classes. I packed a couple of projects that I wanted to knit while I was away, some of which I didn't really get round to knitting at all. And I got on the train from King's Cross, and I was really, really excited. I'd been looking forward to this one for a very, very long time. Last year it was so brilliant, just so transcendentally amazing. And I thought, well, you know what, I can't expect it to be the same. I can't expect it to be better. It may not even live up to it, because obviously when you hype something up, there's a good chance that it's not going to quite match up to your expectations. So I was nonetheless quite excited. And I had packed everything in my bag, and I'd got on the train, and there I was in the quiet carriage, and I had a table to myself. The other 3 seats were reserved for the whole of the journey from London to Edinburgh, which is, on the direct route, it was about 4 hours 40 minutes. So I just sat back and spread out. I mean, nobody came along. I kept thinking every time we stopped that someone was going to jump into the seats, but no, I had it to myself all the way up, which was delightful. So I got quite a lot of knitting done. I cast on a new project, which was something I can't show. It's going to be it's a second sample of, do you remember the blue and yellow thing that I couldn't show you last time? Well, I completed that, so that's a finished object. I've also completed this sample too. I didn't complete it on the train, but I cast it on, and I wanted to knit this sample in a different way that would make it a little bit more amenable to print format, because this is a special commission for a magazine I can't talk about, unfortunately. I'm very excited about it. It's a very complicated pattern in terms of the different types of techniques that are used within it, without giving too much away, and I hate talking obliquely like this, but it's actually an easy knit. However, the first way that I'd knit it was going to take a lot of explaining to get all these different techniques down. So I wanted to see if I could achieve the same results by knitting it in much more familiar techniques. So that's what I started. And I got a good chunk of it done on the train on the way up there, and I was really, really happy. The festival organisers were putting up the tutors in a Travelodge, which is a very nice Travelodge, right in the centre, like 2 minutes walk away from Waverley Station, which is Edinburgh's main line station. And I got checked in, and I knew that I had to get myself an early night, because I had to get up horribly early the next morning. The next morning was the Thursday, and on the Thursday I was teaching my first class. While I was there, I taught 2 versions of my beginner's double knitting class, demystifying double knitting, and I also taught on the Friday afternoon an advanced techniques double knitting class, which I've called Shaping the Future of Double Knitting. That colon makes it a pun. Shaping the future of double knitting, and we are also shaping the future of double knitting. Stupid, I know, but it amuses me, and that's all I care about. So on the first morning, I got up horribly early. The hotel is actually about a 15-minute taxi ride away, maybe 20-minute taxi ride away from the Corn Exchange, which is where the festival was being held. And my class was at the Water of Leith Centre, which is about a 10-minute walk away from there. Very pretty walk, actually, down the river. And I was collected in a cab at 8:15 by Laura, who I met last year, who's one of the helpers and organisers, and it says on her lanyard, it says Laura, and it says underneath Shepherdess. And that was her duty. She was basically chaperoning people and making sure people got to the right places. I tell you, nothing was left to chance at the Edinburgh Festival. Joe and Mika do an extraordinary job of organising everything. They must have spreadsheets coming out of their backsides, I tell you. And everything is taken care of. I knew in advance absolutely all the information I needed at any given point for what I was doing, where I had to be, timings, locations, maps. Everything I needed was given to me well in advance, and everything was planned with military precision. It was brilliant. So the taxi came, and there were only 3 tutors who had classes that morning, so only 3 of us had been in the hotel, so only 3 of us were in the taxi. And they were, Cece, I can't remember your surname, I'll put it here. Apologies for that. Cecile had come over from France to teach some crochet classes. And I also met Felix Ford, who was teaching some colourwork classes. And we all met in the foyer in the morning. Laura came to collect us and took us over to the Corn Exchange, where we were provided with breakfast. Everything was laid on. It was so well looked after, so well looked after. I just felt really, really secure. I just felt like everything was in hand. It was just lovely. So we had our breakfast there, and then I wandered off with Cece down the river to the Water of Leith Centre. And in one of the communications, when Jo was sending out information about the locations, she said, and some of you may be lucky enough to teach in the class with the stuffed otter. I had no idea what the Water of Leith Centre was. It's some kind of conservation school place. Like, it has a very school classroom kind of vibe to it, although there's a cafe out the front. I'm not entirely sure what its actual purpose is for. But I still haven't recovered. I tell you, my brain's all over the place. I was in the room with the stuffed otter, and I arrived and I saw him there, and he was standing up proud, and he had his flag pole that had been shoved between his front paws, and I thought, those paws can be put to better use. So I did this. I figured that if he can do some double knitting, and he doesn't even have opposable thumbs, then that's going to show my class that they will have no problems. It was lovely. The class came in, and as usual with these kind of classes, it's always very interesting. I think now that I've done the advanced class, I have a different take on things, but with the beginner's double knitting class, I think people are always a little bit nervous. They're nervous of the technique. They're probably a little bit nervous of this crazy bearded fellow at the front, because let's face it, it is quite unusual to be taught knitting by a man. I want that to change. Tom Van Dynen and I were the only 2 male tutors this year at Edinburgh. And while I'm very proud to be in such vaunted company, I mean vaunted company, don't I? Brain mashed. I want to be among more. I want there to be more male tutors out there, and I want it to be not unusual to be taught by a male. It's very much a female-dominated environment, I know that, but I just want to up the quota a little bit. So I think people are nervous for lots of reasons, and sort of people come in and you can tell they're all a little bit not sure whether my brain's going to cope with this. And yes, by 2.5 hours into the class, most people's brains have dribbled out of their ears a little bit, but by that point, in the first hour, you've basically learned all the different things you need to learn, and then you just get on with it and just enjoy it. So you're concentrating quite a lot, and it's usually towards the end that people start again to make mistakes that they've already learned how to fix early on. But it was a really, really successful class. We had 13, and one lady was about half an hour late because there'd been some terrible traffic, and I was a little bit nervous, a little bit worried that might sort of skew the atmosphere in the class if she was going to panic and not pick things up very easily. But she was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She was a more mature lady. She'd been obviously knitting a very long time, very, very competent knitter, had never done double knitting before, and in fact was the first person to finish her little heart coaster swatch that we make during the class. She was the first person to bind it off. So we did. She did very well, and I was delighted to have her there. It was very, very charming. I also had in that class Jill, who is from Bertie and Poppet, the Etsy store. As you can see information here. Jill and I met last year when she came to London to see Beyond the Fence, which was the show that Ben and I wrote with computer-aided, I say assistance, hindrance. And she came along to see that. That's when we first met, so that was lovely to see her again. And also in the class, I had 2 ladies from Canada. there's something about Canadians. They are the most generous, lovely, wonderful people you can imagine. I was given a few gifts from people, which was really, really lovely and very thoughtful from people at the festival, and nearly all of them were Canadian. What does that tell you? Thank you, Canada. One of the ladies whose name I never learnt. I never learnt her name, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. But I was given this. Pure maple syrup. This can weighs a lot. It's the product of Quebec in Canada, and I love maple syrup. I absolutely love it. But as she gave it to me, I said, you couldn't know this. I said, but I really, really love maple syrup. She went, oh, don't tell me your house is full of it. I said, no. I said, oddly, I was given a can of this about a year ago from another Canadian friend who brought it over when she came to visit, and we're just getting to the end of it. So the timing could not be more perfect. Love, love, love that. But one of the other ladies in my class, and this is the card she gave me. It says thank you on it, which is really nice. So she brought this especially for me. And this is from Patty, from British Columbia. She says, a big thank you for your contribution to my knitting life. I'm enjoying your podcast. Fabric in this bag, she's made me a bag, celebrates Canada's 150th birthday. This bag is marvellous. It's quite miraculously well made. It's a very unusual design. Look at this. So the material used is there's two types of material. There's material on the handle. There's three, I think, many more. There's material on the handle here. There's material, the red with the maple leaves around the rim, which is different from this maple leaves because that's white, clearly. And then there's this as well, which has got beavers and hockey and lacrosse sticks and snowflakes and all sorts of things that represent Canada. It's thickly quilted, it's quite strongly interfaced, which is really, really lovely. And it's going to, really, really handy, because everyone knows I like a wrist strap, right? I can't help it. I knit on the go, and it's really handy to have a wrist strap. But the ingenious thing about this that Patty has done so brilliantly well is it's got a drawstring top, as well as being kind of shopping basket style. If you look inside, look at this. It has... it's ingenious. So it has this drawstring you can get at your project inside here, and again, oh goodness me, it's all... I haven't actually had a proper look inside this. There's yet another type of Canadian-inspired fabric inside, and then there's this grey, Canada, Newfoundland, Saskatchewan, Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador. It's got all the names of the different territories, Northwest Territories, Yukon. It's all there, but you can keep that there, tuck it away, and then still use your little shopping bag. I love it. Not only do I love it, and it is ingenious, it's also exquisitely well stitched. I mentioned this to Patty. I said, oh my goodness, how these seams line up so perfectly, not just there, but look at this as well, from there wrapping into the bottom of the bag there, perfect alignment there, and again at this side, perfect alignment. And it turns out one of the things that Patty does is she teaches quilting. She's clearly a master. Patty, I'm assuming you're going to be watching. I hope you had a wonderful trip back to Canada, and thank you so much for this bag. I adore it, and I can't wait to move into it. It's really nice and sturdy. It feels good. I love it. Thank you so much. It was very, very sweet of you to bring a present over for me, and it's lovely to have met you, so thank you for that. So then I had the rest of the day free, really. I had no classes. That class finished at 1 o'clock. I'm just going to try and do all this sequentially, which will include some stash enhancement, and it will include some bits and pieces. I'm just, What else can I do? And I had been in touch with Katie Novelli. Katie, of course, from inside number 23. And we both knew, I knew that she was going to be arriving on the Thursday afternoon, and I said, well, do you want to meet up? Will you be too tired from your journey, or will you want to do something? So she says, no, let's get together. So I waited till her train got on, I went back to my hotel. The cab cost me a lot of money. The cab cost me about £12. Thought, I'll get the bus. Next time, I'm getting the bus. So I was back at my hotel, and I was waiting to hear from Katie that she'd arrived safely. And then we met up at Starbucks, kind of halfway between her digs and mine. And it's the first time we've ever met. Hello, Katie. I've seen that you've already posted your Edinburgh Odyssey, and I deliberately haven't watched it yet. I wanted to get this one out the way before I watch anybody else's podcasts about their Edinburgh experience, because I just didn't want to get swayed or sucked into the way other people might be talking about it, or knowing what people have said about me potentially, because I did meet a lot of you. So I haven't seen yours yet, but it's next on my list. So Katie and I decided to meet up for coffee in Starbucks. And it was just... I can't explain what it was like meeting Katie. We both feel like we've known each other for years. It didn't feel like we were meeting each other for the first time at all. Now, interestingly, I know a lot of people have mentioned before that there's a really odd dynamic between the person who does the podcast and the person, you guys, who watch the podcast, because you all feel like you know me, if I'm doing my job correctly. And that's why I do it, and I love that. I like that aspect, so I don't feel weird about that at all. In fact, I want people to come up and say hello. It's really nice to meet people. That's, as I've always said, one of the main reasons why I do this podcast is to reach out and engage with people. So it works perfectly well. But of course, it doesn't work the other way round. I don't know you at all, unless we've had some sort of dealings on Ravelry, but I'm not going to know as much about you as I give away about my life. However, I watch Katie's podcast and she watches mine. So the both of us have that I feel I know you experience. And we do. We've also got a lot of things in common. We've got friends in common. We've both come from a performance background. Katie, not anymore, of course, but she worked for many, many years in my industry. And I say many, many years like she's really old. Katie, you're not really old. You're but a wee bairn. But we have so much shared history, even though we've never met in the flesh before. So we just sat down and... It was like two old friends meeting up who just maybe hadn't seen each other for a few months. It was hilarious. Katie was staying in Edinburgh with Vero from Along the Lanes, who's that Canadian girl on Instagram. And I'd met Vero last year, and she interviewed me for her podcast. And Vero wasn't with Katie at this point. Didn't see her until later. So I also had a plan to meet up with another podcaster, my good mucker, John Glenn from Bearded Shield podcast, and we were going to be going out for dinner that night. So, this is where things get complicated. Stay with me. So Katie and Katie said, well, I've got to go to this knit night. She said, I forgot I was going. I said, I'd forgotten that was tonight. There was a big organised knit night at a venue in Edinburgh. Not really officially part of the festival, I don't think, but maybe it was. Can't remember. Anyway, it's a big one, and there were going to be hundreds of knitters there who were arriving ready for the festival, because although I'd had a class that day and many others had as well, the festival itself didn't start proper until the Friday, which is the day after. So we said, I'll come along with you, and I'll contact John and I'll say, don't meet me at my hotel, meet me at this place in Edinburgh. So I sent him the message and we tootled over there, and I don't think this place knows what hit it. I think they had it last year, so they may have had a fair idea, but there must have been 200 or 300 knitters in this place on 2 levels, and it was just full of really, really lovely people. really very nice people. People who watch my podcast, people who I've known before, people I met last year, people who were planning to take my classes. It was honestly quite overwhelming. And one of the first people to come up and talk to me was Karen Ratbach, who is the divine human being, hello Karen, who translated my toe-ups recipe into French for the French market, for which I'm eternally grateful. We had a great time doing it. I really enjoyed working with her, the back and forwards aspect of her translating, her letting me know what she'd done. I learned so much about French punctuation, which I didn't know, because she was telling me, keeping me up to date with what bit meant what, so I could see what needed to go where in the pattern. It's a really, really positive experience, and she was just delightful to deal with. Karen, of course, you will also know, I talked about recently from Sunnyside-Handmade, the Etsy store, who made things I'm going to show you later anyway, so we'll talk about more about Karen in a minute. But we got a chance to meet up, which was lovely. And time was marching on towards 7 o'clock, which was the time that John and I had planned to meet. And I still hadn't heard back from him to say that he'd got my message about not going to the hotel. It's about 7:15 by this point, and I was starting to panic. So I tried to call him. No response. I sent him an Instagram message and an email, thinking I'll just cover all bases. And I called again, and after a while it cut through to answer machine. And the name on the answer machine was not John. I don't know who it was, but clearly I'd got his number in my phone incorrect. So then I got a text message from John saying we're just setting off. I was like, from a different number, his actual number. So I was immediately able to text him back and say, I'm really, really sorry, I'll explain when I get here. Can you reroute? Can you come to this place? And he said, yeah, fine, no problem. And he arrived. And John, it was, again, such a delight meeting you after feeling that I know you, and meeting your adorable, lovely wife Janet for the first time, and we went off for dinner. We spent some time there in the knit night, because I thought, well, you know what, rather than just us going off for dinner, maybe John would quite enjoy coming in and being part of it. He is, after all, a knitter and a podcaster, and a very big part of the community. So I'm glad actually that it worked out the way it did. So they came up and we sat there and had a drink together, and chatted to other people, and other people coming up to John and up to me and to Katie, and there was too many people to mention by name, but there was one point where I heard a very familiar voice behind me saying, I recognise that voice, and I turned round and it was Andrea from Fruity Knitting. Hello Andrea, and hello Andrew, of course. Andrew had gone to the hotel, he wasn't there at that point. But it was just really lovely to see Andrea in the flesh. I've got to know them quite well. We haven't had much dealings with each other. Andrea and I have messaged a few times, but I've been watching their podcast quite a lot and love it. Love Fruity Knitting. And then Andrew arrived. I got a chance to meet him as well. It was just amazing. Really, really amazing. Here's a picture, I think, of me and Andrew and Andrea. I think I've got one. I got so overwhelmed with the whole thing. I was a really, really rubbish podcaster. I'm sorry, gentlemen and ladies. I'm sorry. I just forgot. I didn't take any footage while I was up there. I didn't film anything at all, and I barely took any photographs. The one person I spent the most time with, I spent more time with the two people, with John and Katie. I didn't get any photographs with them. Next time, eh? Next time I'll remember. So anyway, John and Janet and I then left and went off for dinner, had a wonderful time at dinner just out the back. Really, really enjoyed getting to know each other, spending more time together. They really are the most lovely, lovely couple. Kind-hearted, generous, warm, genuine, which counts for a lot. And and I felt that we became really, really good friends, and I can't wait to see John again. And I know I'm going to be seeing him in a few months' time, which is lovely. So John, I'm looking forward to that. Then I went to bed because I had a big day the next day. The next day was my 2-class day, beginner's class in the morning and advanced class in the afternoon. And I was a little bit nervous about the advanced class because I designed the class specifically for Edinburgh, and I'd never taught it before, and I didn't know what the level of proficiency of knitters was going to be coming in, and I didn't know how much we'd get through, whether I had too much stuff to fill the time or too little. It's a 3-hour class again. So my first class, the beginner's class, was in the Corn Exchange. And this was the first day that the marketplace was open. So I was in a big corner classroom, which was glass walls on 2 sides. And it just happened to be the 2 sides where the queue to get in was going around the building. It's a huge room. And I'd set up the tables in a little U shape, and I was standing in the middle. So I was delivering the class to my class. And all around the windows there were people sort of like staring in, obviously incredibly excited about being there, and the fact that they were sort of champing at the bit to get inside. And I know, because it happened on Instagram, there were lots of people saying, "Oh, I can see Sockmatician taking his class, I wish I were in there." It was really, really kind of bizarre. You may have heard that pop. I did not click my fingers deliberately. I sat on my thumb and it snapped. Well, it didn't snap, but it clicked, so apologies for that. It wasn't deliberate. I am learning. I don't do that kind of thing anymore, sorry. So the class went really, really well. I had another 13 or 14 people in there. So that's now 27, maybe, new double knitters in the world. And I do keep saying to them at the beginning of the class, my dastardly plan is to take over the world 1 knitter at a time, 1 double knitter at a time. So there's now more of them out there to spread the word, spread the gospel of DK, and make sure it happens. That's what I really want is I want for double knitting to become as big as brioche has been over the last couple of years. Nancy and Stephen, I'm coming for you. So that's that. I genuinely would love that, and I think it's absolutely possible. I think double knitting is actually easier than brioche. I think brioche can be quite complicated in lots of its shaping and decreases and increases and things, and I think double knitting is simpler stuff, easier to do. Maybe that's just because my brain comes at it from a double perspective, I don't know. But again, the class was really, really successful. We had a lovely, lovely mix of people in there. Sadly, I didn't have a single male pupil. I know, I keep banging on about this. I know that 80% of you watching this are female, and you're probably thinking, but doesn't he love us too? Well, of course I do. Of course I do. But part of me does wish that there were more of a gender balance, and I'd love it to have some male knitters in my class. Sadly not to be. However, the ladies that were there came from all over. We had a Swedish lady, we had a Finnish lady, we had German, Canadian again, English, Scottish, of course. Do we have any Welsh people? Not sure. There was an Irish lady. Yeah, we had a real good mix of people from all over the place. And again, everybody went away knowing how to double knit and having achieved it as well. Not just knowing it conceptually, but practically and tangibly they had something. And it was just lovely. I get such a thrill when I teach, because I know that at the beginning of my class, the way it's structured, it's front loaded. There's a lot of things to pick up very early on. You've got to do the cast on, you've got to learn the mechanics of double knitting, you've got to learn how to change colour, you've got to do the edges, and that's all in like the first 2 rows. So I know that people get a bit however, after that it's plain sailing, and you can refine and you can really work on that skill and plug it in here properly. And it's just so wonderful when you get that moment where people, they start to get a little bit shoulders around the ears, and they turn their work over and go, because it's a different colour on the other side. They've been working on one side, they turn it, and then they see their heart, the pointy bit at the bottom of their heart, starting to appear in the little motif that we make, and they really start to get it, and you can see real elements of pride, proper knitter's pride, and it's, for me, that gives me such a warm feeling when I know that it's like I've reached someone, I've actually got them, I've got them forever. I love it. I genuinely love it. So then I had only an hour between classes before I was heading back over to the Water of Leith Centre. Sadly, not in the Otter room. Felix was in that room for this class. For my advanced class. It was very scary. I'm not going to lie. So any of you who are watching this who were taking that class, I was a little bit nervous, not going to lie to you. But thank you to everyone who did, because you threw yourselves in with such gusto. And I threw a lot of stuff at you, a lot of different concepts. I'm not going to go into it now, but we did a lot of increases, decreases. We even did German short rows in double knitting. And different types of yarn overs, connected yarn overs and unconnected yarn overs, right leaning decreases, left leaning decreases. And I knew as we were going along, I had, I think, put too much into the class. So there were a couple of things that I skipped over, knowing that they had the worksheets that I given, which had all the information. I said, so we're not going to do this particular type of increase, but now that you've got an idea of the concept, the information here will be enough for you to go away and practice on your own. So I was quite happy with that. And with a couple of little things snipped out of the class, we were able to really get through the rest of the stuff that I wanted to do really successfully. There were quite a handful of Swedish people in that class. What is it about Swedish people and double knitting? You're all very good, all very good knitters. There was Maria and Lavina, who both very shrewd knitters. And there was one lady, forgive me if you're watching, I can't remember everyone's name. I know I do this thing when I go around the circle and try and remember everyone's name. As soon as the class is gone, I'm afraid it goes, because I've got a lot of things to keep up with. But she'd come in and she was beginning to struggle a little bit. She said, oh, I thought I was quite a proficient knitter until I got into this room. I said, well, hang on, you are, because I could clearly see she was. I said, you are a proficient knitter. I said, this is just new. So I spent a little bit more time with her, going over some things and just making sure it really twigged. And I could see she was starting to get it. I could see she was starting to latch on to some of the concepts we were talking about with rearranging stitches and all kinds of stuff. And she's like, and she started to really fly with it. And I could see the excitement coming back. I was like, yes, tick. Can you tell I had a really enjoyable time teaching? By this point, my voice was really going, so I was kind of talking a bit like this. In that class, not only were there delightful Swedish people, but I also got a chance to finally meet Aileen. Hello, Aileen. Hello. Oh, it was such a joy meeting you. Now, Aileen, for those of you who are active on my group on Ravelry, and if not, why not? I miss you. Will know Aileen as Little Bush Baby. And Aileen was proudly wearing her scarf. I think, yes, I got a picture of me and Aileen here. And the scarf pattern was Aileen's very first ever double knitting pattern. She'd never done any DK before, but it also includes 2-colour brioche, worked with my 1-pass method, and it's got a bit of lace in it as well. So actually, from that one pattern, Aileen had learnt a lot of stuff and felt confident enough to come to the advanced class. Rightly so, absolutely, she's brilliant. Aileen had made me a present as well. She's made a present for everybody, to be honest. I have mentioned before that I really like Scottish tablet. Aileen remembered that, didn't you, Aileen? And made some for the class. And made a special box just for me. This is the box. Empty now! This box was full of Scottish tablet, which is just so delicious. I have shared it with Ben. I promise I have. So that's not the only thing that was in that box. And I didn't open it at the time. I actually didn't open it while I was there at all. And I saw Aileen again the next day on the Saturday. We sat down and had a little chat, and she looked at me and she went, "You haven't opened your box yet, have you?" I was like, "Oh, no, I haven't." I said, "I nearly did when I was packing my bag for this morning." I looked at it, I was like, "No, I'm going to save that till I get home." She went, "Okay." So I saved it till I got home, and I was showing Ben all my purchases, which I'll show you all later, panic not. And I opened the box. So inside this box was a packet. Inside this packet was this box. Inside this box was this paper bag. By this point, I was starting to laugh uncontrollably. I was very tired, and it just felt like some sort of surreal game of pass the parcel. And inside that bag was the most thoughtful, wonderful, and like bamboozlingly wonderful, I'm just going to sort it out so I can show you properly, present that you can possibly imagine. Hang on. Sorry about this. Let's get that there. Lovely. Yeah, Aileen had gone to the Yarnistry shop, which is an Etsy shop, but you can find her at yarnistrysshop.co.uk, information here. And she sells stitch markers that have the words for like SSK, P2 TOG, all of those things on them. They're sort of laser cut out of coloured bits of plastic, and they're stuck on stitch markers. I'm just trying to get these in an order where I can show you properly. And they're really, really delightful. And I'd seen them before, and when I opened the packet, I thought that's what these were. It's so much better than that. It's so much better than that. I mean, look at that. Genuinely, words fail me, and I think I'm starting to get a little bit teary just thinking about it. These all say OSAT. So, my fellow OSATers, all of you out there, I've got the most delightful OSAT stitch markers in the world. Not only that, there are 6 of them, and they come in the colours of the Pride rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue and purple. The 6-striped rainbow flag. Aileen, thank you so, so much. Thank you. You're just the most wonderful woman, and I enjoyed meeting you so much in the class, but even more so when we got a chance in the podcasters lounge the next day, just to sit down and have a proper chat, and just really, really special. I love these. I love these so, so much. They're gorgeous. Thank you to Emma too at Yarnistry for making that possible. I really, really appreciate that. That's amazing. A little sidebar here. I've been knitting my rainbow socks, and I've been wearing my Pride socks, which are from the Pride set of Easy Knits Minions, in the 6 colours, and I've been Instagramming them. And it's really, really interesting to me how many people are completely unaware of the significance of the 6-stripe rainbow. It's the Pride flag. It's the LGBT Pride flag. And let's not be under any illusions. I'm a very proud gay man, and I'm very proud of our flag, and it is our flag. And I've had a lot of people saying things like, I love rainbows too, and I'm a proud straight woman. So, yes, I have no doubt, and I don't want to belittle anybody for being a proud straight woman. Of course not. That's completely the opposite of what equality and inclusion is all about. However, I think it mustn't be forgotten that the 6-stripe rainbow flag, and therefore the 6 stripes in a rainbow on anything else is a very, very important and powerful statement. It is showing other people that you're proud of who you are. It's showing other people that you're a safe environment for people who may be struggling to come to terms with their own sexuality or something like that. So when you see it on a restaurant, it's not just saying, this is a shop run by queers. Or a restaurant run by queers. It's saying that we welcome you. You are welcome here. We invite you to come. And that's really, really important. But also it matters, it means something, and it mustn't be subsumed into just a general love of bright colours, because it's much more important than that. And I've said to a few people on Instagram recently, I said, well, this is very specifically a 6-stripe rainbow. And several people have come back to me and said, do you know, I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me know. So I want to, for anyone who's watching this who may not be aware, the 6-stripe rainbow is very, very special to me and to a lot of people in the world. And I'm not saying that straight people can't enjoy a 6-stripe rainbow. Of course they can. The colours are beautiful. Why wouldn't you enjoy it? But I want you to know what it's for. I want you to know what it means. I want you to know the significance behind it. Aileen knows how much I appreciate that, and that's why she chose this for me. And I'm so, so glad you did, Aileen. It's a very, very special gift, and I shall treasure these. There we are. So that was Friday. And then Friday evening was the ceilidh. Last year, the Picts, who are a Scottish rock folk ceilidh band, entertained us all at the dinner with a ceilidh. And this year, because it was so successful last year, Joe and Mika decided, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the Picts came back, and we had a ceilidh. Oh, it was just brilliant, just brilliant. The food's slightly different this year. Last year it was a sit-down dinner. This time it was a buffet, and it's really high-quality food, really inventive, lovely, lovely stuff. And there's plenty of food to go around. It was all lovely. We were taking up table by table, but there was loads of stuff in there. And I spent quite a lot of time from kind of that point onwards with my very good friend John Dunballum from Easy Knits. I knit with a lot of his stuff because it's gorgeous. But I also adore John as a person and as a friend. We've known each other for a few years in real life. Funny. We've known each other for a few years now, and we just get better and better friends, closer and closer friends. I adore John. And I was there also with his friend James, who now lives on Shetland, but comes over and help whenever John's up in Scotland. He comes over and helps him on his stand, and so the two of them run the Easy Knits stall together. But I was also on the same table, lovely, lovely boy knitters table, with Tom van Dynen, who is Tom of Holland, who's up there teaching his invisible mending classes and darning big holes in knitting and fixing catastrophes, which he's very good at. And I might need, Tom, if you ever watch this, I don't know if you do, but I might need to enlist your help, because a sock's got a hole in it. It's the one I snagged, and I showed on the podcast recently. The hole, it went through the wash, and the hole's got bigger, and it's like really unravelling big time. So I want to patch that up. Not only that, but also on the table were two ladies and one very certain gentleman from, so the 4 or 5 of us boy knitters on this table. Me, James, John, Tom, and Jared Flood. Such a joy to meet him. So the two ladies from Brooklyn Tweed as well, who were helping Jared, and Jared himself. So they were lovely, lovely, lovely people. I've never had any contact with Jared before. He wouldn't know me from Adam. There's no reason why he should. But we had a lovely time eating together and chatting. And I'd said to Jared at the beginning of the evening, I said, so will you be getting up and dancing? He said, oh no, I don't think so. Cut to the second dance of the night. And Jared and his two friends bounced out of their seats with no arm twisting from us whatsoever, I promise, and basically never left the dance floor. Oh, we had a crazy, crazy time. Here is a little footage of one of the numbers where we were doing Strip the Willow. I was dancing with Saskia from Yarvol. The full name escapes me, I'll put it here. Saskia, who was adorable, she was my partner there. Felix was also there. Tom was sitting this one out, but John and Jared and I were all doing crazy stuff. And here for your delight and entertainment is that little bit of footage. Oh, it brings back such delightful memories watching that. It was just hilarious. I was a sweaty mess within seconds. I was utterly exhausted. We did one version of that dance where, rather than just in our groups of 8, 4 opposite 4, we went diagonally across the room, and the entire room was one enormous tunnel for Strip the Willow. Now, for those of you who don't know, Strip the Willow is where 2 people, they spin around each other, and then they head off in different directions. They go to the people either side and spin around them, sort of linking arms, and then spin around each other again, and then go to the next person down on their side and back to the centre, and then the next person and back to the centre. So you're doing this kind of crazy figure of 8 all the way down the line. And there must have been, I'd say, at least 50 couples in one long line. So when it was and then after you've gone, maybe 4 couples have gone, you've worked your way down 4 couples, the next couple start, and it keeps moving. So you've got people just doing this thing all the way down. It takes forever. Now, I was partnered at that point with Kathy from Stitch Mastery. If you know Stitch Mastery, it's the program that you can use for charting patterns. It's very, very brilliant, and she and I have got a plan for a little amendment that I'm going to find very useful, that if she gets the time, she's going to program in. But she's also just released, of course, Knit Mastery, which is for not the designer side of things, but for the knitter side of things, where you can, if a chart has been created within Stitch Mastery, you can import it into your version of Knit Mastery, and it'll give you bookmarks and line counts and stitch counts and stuff. Very, very useful. Really, really interesting. I know people use things like Knit Companion. I think it's going to be a good rival for that. And I wish Kathy all the very best with it. It's now launched, it's up and running, so if you don't know about Knit Mastery, check it out, because I think it's going to be a very, very useful tool. But Kathy and I, she's mad. When she gets on the dance floor, she's a whirling demon. We started off sort of like crossing hands and spinning around each other, and we went at such a lick. The centrifugal force, my beard was like, woo! And we were really holding on to each other for dear life. Otherwise we were going to just fly across. And then every time we got round each other, we were spinning each other around really, really quickly. And of course, flinging ourselves out to the people on the outside of the line, grabbing hold of them. And I think we might have been a little bit boisterous. I got a few people, as I linked arms with them, because of my centrifugal force from being flung away from Kathy. The people were like, go, oh, as I spun them round. We didn't kill anyone, you'll be glad to know, but by the end, my legs, I was exhausted, my lungs were burning, sweat running down. We actually went down the line twice. It went on long enough that we worked our way back up to the top end and went down a second time as well. I was like, oh, it was hilarious. And just like last year, John and I were in the group that was last to leave. In fact, we were asked to leave because we were still there. I had got a taxi ride home with Tom and with Felix, because they were both staying in my hotel as well. They both went out drinking afterwards. I was like, my voice has left the building, so I needed to go. Because I wanted to enjoy the Saturday. Saturday was, because I hadn't been in the marketplace at all on the Friday. Sadly, I didn't get a chance to see John and Janet at all again. So once after we saw each other for dinner, that was it. Our paths never crossed again, which was bizarre. But there were other people there as well. I know Jolie Kelly was there, and hi Jolie. We didn't see each other, didn't lay eyes on each other all weekend. Saturday was mad. Saturday was a day literally just spent in the marketplace, in the podcaster lounge in the marketplace, running around doing this, that and the other, and it was delightfully overwhelming, but overwhelming nonetheless. It didn't seem that I could go very far without stopping to chat to somebody. So many people were coming up to me. It's a good job I'm not in any hurry for anything that day. I was just there to soak it all up and enjoy. And so many people came up to me and stopped me and said, "Hello Nathan, thank you for listening to the rules." "Hello Nathan, I'm such and such, I'm from Thingy, I watched the podcast and we talked about blah blah in your forum." I was like, it really, really helps. It really, really helps. And then I don't feel that you know everything about me and I know nothing about you. And it was so lovely. So many people came up to me. I had some gifts given to me, which were charming and delightful and very kind and generous. I was doing plenty of shopping myself. There were lots of things. I had a shopping list, a couple of things I wanted on the shopping list and a couple of things that jumped into my bag that were not on my shopping list, but needed to come home with me nonetheless. I'm sure you can imagine. I saw people with like suitcases full of yarn. Now, what Joe and Mika have managed to do with the Edinburgh Yarn Festival is they've put together a very, very eclectic group. Yes, there's some familiar faces and there's people you know from the other yarn fairs. If you travel around the country the way I do, then you see some of the same faces at all the places. Lovely, because they're nice people. It's always nice to see them. But what they do is they have a balance of that and lots of local millers, dyers, people who aren't necessarily on the scene, as it were. And there are some people there whose stuff I've never seen before. And there's a lot of focus on British breeds, particularly Scottish breeds, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful mix. One of the girls who was in my class, Liz, if you're watching, Lizzie, who took my class on the Friday morning. I saw her at the end of Friday, just before the Ceilidh, and so she was coming out of the marketplace. Her eyes wild. Coming up to me, I've bought so much stuff, I've seen so many things, I had a wonderful time. She was completely wired. People talk about yarn fumes in a sort of joking way, so I've got moustache hair in my mouth. People talk about yarn fumes in a joking way. It's a thing. It's a thing. Lizzie was not the only person I saw who was absolutely giddy with it. And I think maybe might be uncharitable of me, and I don't mean it in a cruel way at all, but I think a lot of knitters spend quite a lot of time alone. It's a very solitary pastime. Yes, you can knit in groups and stuff like that, but it's still a very inward-looking, involved thing. And I think it's interesting. Suddenly you join the world, and the world is full of people just like you, and everyone has the same love of the things that you love, and the same interest in the things that interest you. And actually, I think it takes people by surprise a bit. I know some stall holders, one person was telling me that they had a woman who came up to them and said, "You're the only person I sort of know here, you don't know me, you're the only person, but can I just stand here for a bit and look at you?" She'd been completely overwhelmed. It was on the verge of an anxiety attack. This was not at Edinburgh, this was another story of another time. But she was on the verge of an anxiety attack because she was so overcome with the stuff that she was enjoying, but it had just become too much and she needed to focus on something familiar. And I get it. I really, really get it. I was almost starting to feel a bit like that. I felt, by the end of the day, I hadn't breathed out. Does that make sense? I was like, because there was always someone to talk to. "Oh, hello, lovely to meet you," and I was trying to be all really up and but it's I didn't do that all day. I spent time in the podcaster lounge as well, and I met wonderful people. I met Shamika, and I spent more time with Andrew and Andrea. Genuinely lovely to speak to you and to get to know you. But I also, one of the first people I met when I walked through the door on the Saturday morning, I saw Katie, and she was there with Eric. Eric Lutz from the Sticks. Got my mouth twist around that. Eric Lutz from the Sticks plus Twine, not Eric Lux from the Sticks plus Twine. Let's pretend I didn't say any of that. And the first person I saw was Katie, and she was there with Eric. Eric, of course, is Eric Lutz from the Sticks Plus Twine podcast. Bravo, Nathan, you can talk. 20 years on the stage, hasn't gone to waste. And again, it was lovely to see Eric. Not only have we watched each other's podcasts and messaged each other quite a lot, but we've also had dealings with each other because, of course, I contributed a pattern to Rib Magazine, the first issue, which is Eric's magazine endeavour with Devon from the Handmade and Woolen podcast as well. So we felt we know each other quite well, and sadly I just didn't get enough time to speak to Eric. He was dashing off somewhere, so we had a lovely little chat to begin with, and we met up again in the podcast lounge and had a little chat, but I'd like to have spent more time. So Eric, next time you're over, let's put some time in the diary for just us. I think that'd be really nice. Who else did I meet? Of course, Vero from Along the Lanes, and I'd love to sit down and chat with Louise, of course, Louise Scully from Knit British. One of the people that I met on my travels, I was delighted to meet, really, really delighted to meet, was Jen Arnold Culliford. Now, people who watch this podcast keenly will probably remember that name. Jen is the tech editor from the Book of Haps, the Kate Davis Book of Haps. It's Kate Davis and Jen Arnold Culliford. And she was talking to, can't remember who she was talking to, someone else I know. I think it was John. And I joined the group. And she said, "Hello, I'm Jen. My name's Jen." I said, "Oh, I know exactly who you are." And of course, I've knitted one of the patterns that she tech edited, which is Tom Van Dynen's Hexa hat. It's all very incestuous, don't you? You started to see how the wheels within wheels work. So of course, I've been spending a lot of time with Tom, and I've knitted his hat. I actually had it with me because I know there's an element of it that he wanted to see of the way I'd done mine slightly differently. So I showed him that, and he was delighted to see that. But Jen was saying, it was really interesting because since that book has come out, it's made her quite well known. It's like, as it would. It's a very, very popular book. She said, last year, she said, I was able to wander around and just be a consumer. She said, this year, a lot of people are coming up to me knowing who I am. I said, well, there you have it. Put your face in the firing line, and people are going to take aim in the nicest possible way. But I also sat down and had a lovely chat with Aileen again and with Karen, and we spent much more time together in a more relaxed environment, chatting in the podcasters lounge. And I kept popping back into the marketplace to do a bit of damage. And basically, that was my time in Edinburgh. I then went out for dinner. What did I do for dinner that night? John and James and their friend, who I hadn't known before, and we went out to Wagamama's and just sort of breathed out. John had an outrageously busy time. I think his busiest, certainly his busiest Edinburgh ever. It was mad. It was so many people. And yet, here's the thing. I touched on this earlier. Joe and Mika never looked flapped at all. I saw a lot of Joe. I didn't see much of Mika, but I saw a lot of Joe. And every time I ran into Joe, no matter what she was doing, she stopped and she talked to me and she asked me if everything was okay, and we chatted, and she never once gave me the impression that she was too busy or that she needed to hurry off. When a conversation came to an end, she went on her way. And it's that level of care, I think, that has infused itself through every aspect of the Edinburgh Festival. And they've put their love into it, and we all get it coming out at us. It's just amazing. So to experience it as a podcaster and now as a teacher, and certainly as a consumer, I've had a really good experience of the Edinburgh Yarn Festival on all fronts, and none of it is lacking. It's just wonderful. So Joe and Mika, thank you so much. To anybody who wasn't there, I know you're probably a little bit bored of hearing people banging on about Edinburgh and how wonderful it was. Well, it was. There's a reason why we do, because it genuinely is. And I cannot wait to go back next year. I will definitely be going next year, even if I'm not teaching. I don't have any plans at the moment. I would love to, but even if I'm not, I will certainly be there just for the crack. Just amazing. And the next day I came home on the train. My train journey home was nearly 6 hours long due to some delays, and packed in with lots and lots of people that I didn't enjoy spending time in their company. For lots of reasons I don't want to go into. So I got home a little bit grumpy, but I was tired and I was elated. And then I started going through and showing Ben everything I'd bought, and it all came flooding back and I felt fabulous again. But I couldn't talk at all. So I've had 2 days complete voice rest. Yesterday I was talking a little bit, and today I'm back to talking, and it's working a bit. My voice is fine. I took yesterday off work because I just wasn't up to a day on the telephones or a busy environment talking over noise. And there we are. That roundup has taken an hour. So let's crack on. I've done a lot about community. Oh, one of the other people I spoke to... Oh, I'll talk about that later. So I am now going to crack straight into podcast questions. Because they're mounting up and I want to get through as many as I can. So where did I leave off last time? Viv RBN, I'm just going to whiz through these as quickly as I can. Viv RBN says, I've been watching episode 40 and something came to me. You've mentioned many different things about your tattoos, but I don't recall you ever having mentioned how did you decide what colour ink to use. Well, I just knew I liked the colours green, blue and purple for the ones on my arm. So I said to the tattoo artist, please just use green, blue and purple and different shades thereof. And I mostly left it up to the artists themselves to decide which one was going to be which colour. I just wanted them to be as randomly spaced as possible. It's quite simple really. I like the colours. The tattoo on my back, which I haven't shown yet, was definitely the colours of the artist. That's his stamp. But I'll show you that one day. Eileen says, my first ever podcast question, you mentioned Kat Bordy's Hungry Stitch. Have you ever tried her Sweet Tomato heels? I knit my last 2 pairs of socks toe up using her Sweet Tomato heels and I love them. I may never use another heel pattern. She misses the UK very much, she goes on to say. Well, yes, I have. For those of you who don't know Kat Bordy, she's brilliant. She comes at techniques from a very, very left field perspective. And the Hungry Stitch is a way of making a line of SSK, left-leaning decreases, nice and neat and tidy. Knit 2 together, the right-leaning version, always lie very, very neat and flat, but often SSK lines can wobble and be a bit untidy, and the Hungry Stitch is a way of combating that, and I use it on all my socks for the gussets and for the toes. Yes, I have actually knitted a pair of socks with a Sweet Tomato heel, and I enjoyed it. I think I would need to modify my stitch count a little bit to try and get it the best fit for me. I think it's really, really good for someone with quite a bulbous heel. Works very, very well for that. It's a way of doing, you work on like 2/3 of the stitches of the heel and you work it in like segmented wedges so it looks like the segments of a tomato when you cut it little slices of tomato. That's why it's called the Sweet Tomato heel, I believe. I've only done it the once. I'm not in a great hurry to go back to it, purely and simply because it uses 2/3 of the stitches rather than half, and if you're doing a patterned front for the foot, that can make the maths a little bit tricky. So I stayed away from it there, but I did enjoy it, and I'm delighted that you found one that works for you. Christy Stitches says, have you ever travelled to Canada, and if not, do you have any plans to? Well, I have not. I would absolutely love to. Time and money. Also, do you have a list of places that you would love to travel to? Well, do you know what? I love travelling. I really do. I don't actually have a list of places I'd like to go. What I love more than anything is getting the opportunity to travel for work, for gigs and things, because I like going to places I wouldn't necessarily choose to go. You remember last summer I went on a cruise and went to Riga in Latvia. Never going to be top of my list to think to book to go. I loved it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city. And years ago, doing a corporate junk drumming event thing, like kind of think stomp but making more percussive sounds. I went to Kiev in the Ukraine and just really, really loved it. So again, I would never have thought to go there. So that's the kind of travelling I like to do. So rather than planning stuff, I really, really like to have things taken by surprise. She then goes on to say, various other things, which are more personal, not questioning. Hi Nathan, I've been meaning to ask you a question for a while, and it seems appropriate to ask now after just seeing your Instagram pancake post. Please talk to me about food, she says. Well, this is from Batfink, I didn't mention. What do you like to eat? Well, I like Italian food. That's probably my favourite. I love Italian food. I like British food as well. I like things like a roast dinner, and I like cottage pie and toad in the hole. People say we don't have good cuisine in this country. Well, our traditional dishes, I love them. Dumpling stew, nice. Hot pot, lush. Who cooks most often? Well, in this house it's clearly Ben. It's obviously Ben. He does vast majority of the cooking. I always say it's because he gets hungrier before I do, and so he goes off to the kitchen and prepares food, but I'm always very happy to eat it, no matter when it arrives. Do you enjoy cooking? I do, but whereas Ben is very instinctive and he'll throw things together and make something fabulous, I'm the kind of person that I need to plan it and have a recipe and get all the right ingredients. So if we're having a dinner party, I'll probably do something for that, but I wouldn't necessarily do that kind of cooking on an everyday basis. And do you call your late afternoon / early evening meal your tea or your dinner? Well, for me it kind of depends what kind of meal it is, not really what time of day it is. If it's like sandwiches and cakes, it's tea. If it's spaghetti bolognese or a cooked meal, it's dinner. But I know people who call it supper, so go figure. And then we've got Nerdy Blonde here, who says she thinks I'm looking a bit like Hugh Jackman in the opening scenes of the Les Mis film. Oh, that I looked like him in the Wolverine films. And of course I sang Bring Him Home on the podcast a while back, and the coincidence made her laugh. Pom, who I got the chance to meet while I was in Edinburgh. Pom is pommed happy. She says, hi Nathan, I was tidying up my yarn stash in preparation for EYF. Need to make some room. Well, I bet you've filled all that room up now. I was looking at my old stash. What's the oldest skein of yarn in your stash? I'll show you mine if you show us yours. I haven't even planned this. I'm not going to answer this now. I'm going to do this next week next week if I can. Yeah, that's it. Okay, Smoffy has said, hi Nathan, I've been watching your podcast for a while now, and from time to time my 14-year-old daughter is around while I watch. Well, she recently watched your wedding with me and was amazed at how different you look. Yes, I had hair and I had no beard. Anyway, today is the first time since that she's watched. Her suggestion, he should sing his podcast as a musical like his wedding. How's that for an idea? Well, thank you for the podcast. It's one of my favourites. It's very kind of you. I have to say, that's a brilliant idea. I love it. Please pass on to your daughter if you're watching. Hello. I'm not going to do it. It would take an enormous amount of work. I'd have to plan everything I wanted to say. And I mean, today I'm not doing any singing at all. Apologies for that. Got to look after the old clack, And then Murphy Doodle says, hey Nathan, I thought about you yesterday. I was listening to my husband play percussion in the symphony he's part of. As I noted in the Sockalong thread, I took my sock to knit on while attending the concert, which made me think, have you ever knitted while attending any of your husband's performances, works, or in any other venue? How do you feel if you saw others knitting in the audience while you were on stage? Well, I have. I don't think I would do it in full view. If I was sitting on the front row or something, I wouldn't do it. And I can knit in the dark as long as it's just knitting. But if there's anything more complicated than that, then I would need lights to be able to see. I would think I would not want to appear rude by not be giving people my fullest attention. Even though I know that many knitters can give their full attention while their hands are just happily clacking away. So it's an odd one. I've done it a couple of times in cinemas and things like that. Not so much in live performance. I think in live performance I actually... that's not quite true. Normally I was saying I want to engage and I want to make sure that I've got my full attention on it, so I'm picking everything up. However, my friend Mark is a drummer in the Philip Kane band, and the drummer in the Philip Kane band, and we went to see them performing. There's jazz, it's music. That's not telling a story, that's not, it's and I was sitting in the front row and I was listening to it, and I did have my knitting. The Alliol socks, actually, I seem to remember. So yes, I have done it, and I was sitting in the front row, so that answers the question. How would I feel? As a knitter, I think I would understand that people are not being rude. If I were a non-knitter, I might not know that. Moving on, because there's still more to get through. Only a few more. Murphy Doodle also said, what's the view from my window with the light streaming in? The lights get dark now because this is going on so long. The view from my window is Highgate Tube Station and a load of trees. There's no buildings opposite me apart from the exit to the tube. There's loads and loads of trees, and at this time of year I can see through the trees because they don't have any leaves on them, and over on the hill on the other side over there miles away is Alexandra Palace, which is where Ben and I got married. So that's lovely. In the summer it's just a riot of green and a playground for the squirrels. Very, very lucky. You may have said this before, says Viv RBN again. That's the same one. Hang on. That's really weird. That one's come up twice. So Viv, I was not going to answer it twice. 2 questions, says Ms. Lacey, who's Christine. How much time do you spend tidying up the area visible in the podcast before you begin filming? Are you here? Can you see? My house is not terribly tidy. I don't actually. This is an area which looks as it is. These are the shells we call our expletive shells. Not terribly expletive shells, but expletive beginning with S shelves. And because we put a load of rubbish on them. There's all sorts of stuff over there, but they are quite messy and they are just full of stuff, and that's how they are. The mantelpiece has on it what it has on it. This, I think I've said this before, this doesn't live here. This sofa actually lives in front of this window. I pull it round because that's a much more interesting backdrop than a window which is put into silhouette. So all of those things. No, I make sure that anything in shot is not really awful. There's a little area down here which is the side of the sofa that Ben sits on, which is always full of rubbish. You can't see it doesn't matter. How long does each episode take to edit on average before you're ready to upload? Well, a good 2 or 3 hours. I don't tend to do a lot of editing, as you know. The more complex the edit, the longer it takes. I put in captions and things like that, and I have to watch everything, make sure that I'm happy with what's being said, make sure that everything can be heard. If there's when I was coughing, I had to edit those things out. So it all takes time, and obviously, if it's a 2-hour episode, it's going to take a lot longer than 2 hours because you keep stopping and starting, and every time you make an edit, you want to audition the edit so that you can make sure it's running smoothly. So it might take 5 minutes on one cut. So it can take a long time. It's a big commitment of time. I enjoy doing it, but it takes up a lot of time. And Liz, who is Rupert's Land, Liz, who I met in Manchester, she's in one of my classes there, says, where is the strangest place you've knitted? Interestingly, your choice of the word knitted. Ben was saying the other day how he hates the word knit being used as a past tense. Oh, I knit that last week, or I did that I knit that last year. Knitted is what Ben wants, and that's what you've gone for. I think I'm okay with the two interchangeably. Mini grammar rant, because there's not going to be a grammar rant this week. I'm okay with that. But I don't really. I knit everywhere. So anywhere I've been, which is strange, probably in the first row of a jazz concert at the Albert Hall, on the tube, on the train, shopping centres. Honestly, I'll knit anywhere. Apologies if this has been asked before, says Tanya Rose, and apologies for being so nosy. No apologies needed, because it hasn't, and you're not. But the tuning fork on your mantelpiece, there it is. Which note? Well, of course, it's concert A440. And it sounds like this. I'm sure you've got to hear it. It's got a little hammer inside, and it goes like this. Can you see it? It goes like this. It's a very, very pure sound. Still going. The decay is really, really long. Bring it closer to the mic. Oh, it's just stopped. No, it's just stopped. It took all that length of time. When I say concert A, 440, 440 kilohertz is the frequency. Still hear it. The frequency at which concert A is currently pitched. It's brighter than Baroque pitch, which was from years ago. So musicians will know that Baroque pitch was 430 something, 400. I don't know. But pitch has got brighter over the years, and a sort of a standard A is now 440. There's the talk of changing it again, I believe. I might be wrong, maybe I've made that up. But there you go. So that's that. And that's the podcast questions done. Now listen, we've got to get into Stash. This is going to be an epic episode. I apologise for that. Before we move on, I do want to talk about the Sockalong. The Sockalong is going from strength to strength. I'm about to open it's a sock knit-along, clearly. Head over to the group on Ravelry and have a look at that, because there is a group there, a thread there dedicated to it. I'm going to open up another thread for FOs, because I know they're starting to come in thick and fast now. I haven't yet posted my cast-on photo. I did take it on the 2nd or 3rd of March with the date involved. So the rules are for the Sockalong, if you don't already know, you've still got plenty of time, 2 weeks left of March if you want to enter. You do need to cast on during March. If that's new, clearly you will do. But it's important that with your cast-on photo has some kind of proof of the date, even if it's just you writing the word Sockalong, because you wouldn't have heard about it before March, so that's okay. So you can write on a piece of paper and photograph your knitting with it, or you can show the date on your iPhone or iPad, or computer screen, or anything else that shows the date, newspaper, anything like that. Be a member of my group. Follow me on Instagram. If you use Instagram, subscribe to this group, to this podcast channel, and finish your socks by the end of March. That's it. So there are prizes. There are prizes galore coming in thick and fast. Now let me open up because I don't want to miss anything out. I know there are a few people who've contacted me who have offered prizes. I'm actually going to turn them down at the moment, because I've got a lot, and I think I've got enough prizes for the Sockalong. So next time I do a Cal, I will come back to you if that's okay. If you've offered, some people offered bags and yarn and things like that. So pause that, please. If you haven't heard back from me, it's because I'm going to get around to things later on. But lovely Miss Rena, has offered a skein of her mint choc chip yarn, which is really, really lovely. I don't have a photograph here at the moment. I should be able to find one, and I'll post one here. Editing is going to take me, I don't know why I said that. There you go, I'll find that. And there's going to be that, which is going to go into the mix, into the prize pot. I've also got Karen's Sunnyside handmade bits and pieces. There's the little stitch markers and progress markers here. it's getting really dark and I haven't even shown the yarn yet. The OSAT stitch marker and badge, and one of these two needle gauges, either the plastic one or the wooden one. I might actually let you choose because I don't mind. They're both lovely. So that's Karen Rambach, who's, I talked about earlier, who translated the toe-ups, you know who I mean. Karen, you know who I mean. Also, Leslie, who is Porthia on Ravelry, has very kindly offered to donate some skeins of yarn by Juniper Moon, which she knows she's not going to use. I don't have possession of those yet, but I'm going to get hold of those at the beginning of April, so I'll be able to forward that on to one lucky winner, which is going to be very lovely. And finally, I also got contacted by Zena, lovely Zena from Little Yellow Uke Handmade. That's not right, is it? Crafts. Little Yellow Uke Crafts. Sorry, Zena. And she contacted me and said she'd like to dye something as a giveaway. And her dyeing is going from strength to strength and really coming on in leaps and bounds. I've already knitted with some of her yarn, the Blue Hawaii pale blue socks that I made a few months back. So I know it's good stuff. And I said, yes, of course, lovely. Well, it arrived. It arrived a couple of days ago. Zena, I haven't even said hello and thank you to you yet, so I will do this before. By the time you see this, hopefully, I will have put pen to paper, fingers to keys, and said thank you, because I'm genuinely very, very touched with this. So this is the card that came from me to you with little cotton wool sheep and an upside down rainbow, which is kind of quirky. And it says, Nathan, it was so lovely to meet you at Unravel. Yes, it was, and now I wish I joined you for lunch. So do I. Next time, please. I hope you had a fabulous time at EYF. Yes, I did. It looked brilliant from what I've seen on Instagram. People's Instagram has just been flooded with Edinburgh. So I've been wanting for some time to dye yarn as a homage to George Michael, sadly departed, and this is my attempt. It's brilliant. There are two skeins here, one for you and one for the Sockalong. Well, I didn't expect that, Zena. That's incredibly kind. Thank you very, very much, and I love it. You will love it when you see it too, everyone. I absolutely love it. They're both BFL, so perfect for socks, which they are. Yes, absolutely. It's a 75% BFL and a 25% nylon, so really good base for socks. And they are my interpretation of pride flag colours, scattered and random. You will, I'm sure, guess the inspiration of the colourway name, but I like the dual meaning. Hope to see you in person again soon. Much love, Zena. Well, Zena, these are beautiful. These are not your standard rainbow coloured socks. They are somewhat different and very, very gorgeous. There's one, and here's the other. They are absolutely beautiful. I love how the colours run in from. It's not very different. Every dyer's wool smells different. They come in these they're beautiful. Look at these beautiful, gorgeous colours, and the colourway is called, quite rightly, Knit Without Prejudice. Now, Zena, I'm going to assume that you are a massive George Michael fan, and now that he's no longer with us, I took a little trip out of the house earlier today with this yarn for you, and I thought you might be interested to see this little bit of footage. Zena, this is especially for you. I have walked up to Highgate Village, which is not far from where I live, and behind me you can see the shrine that has been kept here with all the gifts of love and grief for the passing of George Michael. I thought it might be nice to bring your lovely yarn, knit without prejudice, up here, as I know this is your tribute to the wonderful man who gave us so much beautiful and fabulous music and was such a creative inspiration to so many people. This little park is just in front of the house where George lived, just here with his partner Fadi, and in the days after his death, the outside of the house was strewn with thousands of bouquets of flowers, and now they've been moved into this little park, and it looks like it's becoming a bit of a permanent memorial to his memory. So just for you, Zena, I'm going to break off a little piece of your yarn and I'm going to tie it to this tree behind me here, which is full of messages of love for the great man. I think this tree behind me should very definitely be known as the Tree of Love. It's got wonderful, wonderful messages and all heart shapes and stars. It's really, really pretty. And this, Zena, is the little patch of yarn that I'm going to tie to it. There we are, Zena, your tribute to the great man, and I guess my tribute too, here on the Tree of Love for everyone to share. So there we are, Zena. What I did is I unravelled one of the skeins and I took off the figure of 8 knot yarn, which had all the colours on it. So that's what I've used to put on the tree. And it was, yeah. I hope you're pleased. I hope that's had the desired effect. I hope you feel proud that your lovely tribute to George is at his memorial garden. It's beautiful. So one of these is mine, and one of these is for you as well. So the Sockalong is inundated with prizes, and it's going to be very, very busy, I think. Now that you've seen this, who doesn't want this? Oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous. So Zena, thank you very much for that. Right, moving on, it is time for stash enhancement. Clearly, there's a lot. I came home with 17 new skeins of yarn, 3 of which were a gift. Now, Karen Rambach carried with her from somebody in where she lives who said, "Are you going to meet Nathan? Will you please give him this parcel?" And this parcel was quite a large parcel. I think she said yes before she realised quite how heavy it was. And inside, not 1, not 2, but 3 skeins of yarn and a project bag. Just like uber super generous. So this project bag is from Cindy of Mon Sheep Shop, and that's the name of the shop itself, and it's lovely here. It says, "Dear Nathan, my name is Cindy. I live in the lovely Loire Valley in France with my husband and our baby and our 3 mad dogs. I've been meaning to contact you for quite some time, and when Karen told me she was coming to Edinburgh to see you, I asked her if she would mind giving me a few skeins of my hand-dyed yarn on her behalf. She kindly said yes. So you are holding 3 skeins of my 6 Nations Rugby Tournament self-striping yarns. As you can easily guess, 1 is England, the 2nd is Scotland, and the 3rd is Wales. This is a really nice thing. They're really special to my heart. As a young adult, I used to watch the tournament with my father. He passed away last year, so this is my way of honouring his memory and keeping our little tradition going on. That's very moving. I've had a lot of fun knitting those colourways, so I thought you might too. I hope you enjoy every stitch of these cuties. Happy knitting, Cindy." Well, I absolutely will, but before we get on to that, nice card there. Before we get on to that, here's the bag. So Cindy is Mon Sheep Shop, and I shall put all the details of how you can contact her here. And inside this lovely bag is a tiny, tiny, very strongly scented little lavender pouch. Marvellous. And the yarn was in the same bag with it, and the yarn all smells of lavender too, which is nice. Inside it's got the same fabric as the outside, and it's got this little contrast on the bottom. It's a nice size. It's a really good size. I can get a good scarf in there, a couple of skeins, I think. In fact, I think I know what's going to go in it. It's in this big bag of yarn down here. And it's very, very lovely. So Cindy, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. And these are the 3 skeins of yarn that she was talking about. We've got England, Scotland and Wales, and I shall leave it to you to try and guess which one you think is which. I think it's quite clear. This one is England. It doesn't say a great deal on the ball band, but let me just it doesn't say a great deal on the ball band, but we have it's self-striping and it's really lovely. I don't know how many colours there are, if it's just the 2, but the reds seem to be a little bit more, have a bit more depth to them. So maybe, I don't want to unwrap it because it's so nicely skeined up. I won't be able to tell anyway, but really, really lovely. Obviously the colours of the St George Cross in the England flag. The other one here is Wales. You can see the beautiful greens and reds of the Welsh flag, the Welsh dragon, on this sort of grey background. I don't know what the order of stripes will be, whether it's just green, red, grey, or whether there's something a bit more complex going on. But again, very, very beautiful. And these are all, I believe, 100% superwash merino. And this one, I think this one's probably my favourite. This is the Scotland one. So it's like a thistle, right? Or heather on the mountains, purples and greens of varying different shades. So much depth to those colours. Really, really gorgeous. I cannot wait to see how these stripe. I do like stripes in a vanilla sock. It's very nice. Let the yarn do the work for me. So these, smelling of lavender, are absolutely beautiful, and just thank you, Cindy. Thank you so, so much. It's very, very kind. So if anybody wants to get their hands on some of this, then head over to Cindy's shop, and all the details are here, as I said. And please give her some of your custom love. Now I'm going to have to pause this right here because I've just seen what the time is. I'm due out at the theatre tonight. So before I dive into my actual Stash purchases, I'm going to have to pause this now and see you at another time. So I hope you've had fun so far, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye. I'm just popping back in very quickly to say I've decided to do this podcast episode in 2 parts. So this is the end of the first part. The second part will be following on very shortly with all of my Stash Enhancements from the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, as well as some whips and FOs. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.